such a pleasure to have you on the stage with me, Donato. You're the embodiment of a compassionate leader, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion with you on compassionate leadership. So in that vein, why did you see the need of writing this book? And can you elaborate on your purpose and your messages on, especially at this time of putting together these messages?
Thank you very, very much for having me here today. And in light of what's going on in the world and what's going on in the state of Maine, I'm reminded of a very great quote from Robert Kennedy. Quote, "All of us might wish at times that we lived in a more tranquil world, but we don't. And if our times are difficult and perplexing, so are they challenging and filled with opportunity." The events yesterday in Lewiston, Maine, reminds us that hope and compassion, I believe, are our best way forward. And we remember at this hour those who have lost their lives and the families who are suffering and the many, many, many people that have been injured. I think the purpose of the book, speaks for itself. I truly believe that the challenges that are before us, whether it be food insecurity, whether it be loneliness, as you may have read yesterday, 25% now of the world's population has classified themselves as feeling lonely. And I thought for many years when I was the CEO of Tivity Health and working with so many seniors that I thought it was unique only to the older adult population. And now we're realizing that it's not, that the younger population feel a lost sense of relevancy. And so I truly believe that we as business leaders, we as technology leaders, we have a responsibility not only to deliver on the bottom line of profit, we have a responsibility to address what I think has been an enormous amount of vulnerability decay. Individuals who are afraid to share their stories, individuals who feel all alone because they feel a lost sense of relevancy. And it is my hope that this is not just a book, it's a movement that we can help all people realize that compassion, which is empathy in action, that's the definition for compassionate leadership. It's just not good enough to have empathy anymore. You really have to take action.
Thank you, Donato. Indeed, I think we were faced with many things in the world these days that really challenge us on how we are leading companies, how we are developing products, how we are understanding what does patient first mean, and all of the different experiences that individuals have with understanding their disease or their condition, keeping well, and even trying to make the right choices for them on what treatment path they should take. And I'd like to ask you about the currency of business at this time. We often think the currency is profitability, and compassionate leadership traditionally, or perhaps one of the myths is that it's considered weak. But actually one of the quotes from your book is that the new currency for this generation is compassion. And I'd like you to talk about how compassion is the new currency and why compassionate leadership is strong, actually. And what are your thoughts about the nature versus nurture about compassionate leadership? Can it be taught? And what's the right way to tackle this when we're leading businesses and also developing products?
Very good. There's quite a few questions there. So let me try to break it apart here, if I may. Too often, I think businesses, the language for businesses is numbers. And it's why, I labored in terms of what the appropriate title for the book should be. And it's funny because my publisher had submitted 50 different titles, and I dismissed each and every one of them and chose the double bottom line because I don't think what we're saying is that you abdicate that language of numbers. What I think we are saying is that you expand on it. It's numbers. It's about love in a company. It's about getting to know your team, and not the team in the gestalt but to get to know the team by individuals. Too often we default to say, I have the best team. And then when you ask the leader, well, tell me about each team member, tell me about their whys, you rarely get them to answer it according to what the individual's passion might be or what the individual's challenges might be. And so the book really is about not just creating a language and a business about numbers, it's about creating this value of bringing love and kindness and a new way of embracing your employees. It's very interesting. One of the things that we uncovered in the research of this book is that the average age of the CEO today in the American business is 59. By the way, that's the same average age of our elected officials in Washington. Now think of it. Today's workforce, a good percentage now is reflective of Gen Zers and millennials. And, by the end of this decade, they're going to represent 45, 50%, perhaps greater in terms of total population. They alone are looking for more than a paycheck. And if we want to increase productivity, we have to increase the notion that compassion and kindness really are the new currency for the new generation. And one of the things that I have been challenged my whole life, and I'll get to the third question about, is compassionate leadership weak? One of the challenges I've had my entire life in practicing compassionate leadership is that it's weak leadership. And that's nonsense, because what you're doing is you're turning around this approach of starting off with tenacity. What I propose is to start off with tenderness. Through the tenderness, you can get the trust from your employees and your colleagues and your investors, and then you can be tough. Too often we have this notion that we have to be tough. We can't share our story. Well, let me use myself as an example. For years, it's funny, I just interfaced with one of my former executives recently who said he felt my pain for the years that I never shared with anyone because I was a CEO of a company. I didn't want anyone to think that my life wasn't built with challenges, but I never shared that I had lost a significant amount of my hearing at age 8, that for 10 years I had a speech impediment, that I failed the 5th grade. I never shared that with people. I thought that that was like an embarrassment. And once I was set free to share my story, oh my gosh, so many other of my team members stepped forward and they would share their own stories. And before you know it, we started to build trust. And that's why I say there is a vulnerability decay going on in our society today. We are so afraid to share our stories because we listen to react. We don't listen to understand. And can compassion be taught? You bet it can. I was not always the compassionate leader I am today, and I still make mistakes. But one of the values of compassionate leadership is your own sense of taking the time to evaluate yourself, taking the time to acknowledge when you have made an error, taking the time to apologize to someone that you might have, injured during the course of the day. And so compassionate leadership can be taught. It's not weak, it can be tough. It's just a different way of how you approach it in the organization.
A lot of richness there, Donato. Thank you. And as you say, that's a lot to unpack, even in your response. And I think one of the chats was, this is the heart of business. So if we take a moment to talk about technology, especially AI and development of technology, and looking at what's the purpose of the outcome of technology? What are we trying to serve? The humanness aspect and the patient engagement aspect takes on a whole nother realm there in terms of being compassionate about that patient engagement. So what are your thoughts about technology and building in compassion, and how do we develop? And also, what call to action do you think is necessary to continue?
Very great question. And, you mentioned about artificial intelligence, and, listen, data can get you so far, feelings can get you all the way. And I don't think that artificial intelligence can strip you of the importance of the feelings of people. You need to get to know your team. No matter what kind of leader you are, whether in the office or among your friends, getting to know your team is crucial. If we use artificial intelligence to ask the question, who was the 35th president of the United States? The answer is going to be the same, John F. Kennedy. However, if you ask, how is Donato Tramuto feeling today? I'm not sure you can get to the answer without having some integration of thoughts and feelings with me. And I think that's what I am worried about, is that human rights apply not only online, but they apply offline. And too much of, and that's why I use this line in my book, we are listening to react. We're not listening to understand. And when you really get deep in knowing the feelings and the stories of other people, you don't look at just the content, you look at the contextual overture of that individual. And I think that's what worries me, that we have to be careful that it's not 100% data. I've always said data can get you so far, but I do believe that feelings can get you all the way. And I think that if we can integrate technology, by the way, technology can be absolutely great. Good social media can help people understand issues in a way that perhaps they did not understand before. However, using it as the absolute, I think, could take us down a very, very dangerous path. And, I believe it has already with respect to, online harassment and other things that are plaguing our young. So I think we have to be, very careful to ensure that we're taking the best of what technology can offer and don't abdicate the importance of incorporating feelings. Recently, somebody recommended a book titled 10X by Dan Sullivan. And the beginning part of the book, I'm really moved because I'm in Florence, Italy right now, and I'm on my book tour here in Italy. But the beginning part of the book speaks about Michelangelo and, how back, in 1400, and I think it was 1460, the 15th century, how, he violated local laws by going into the hospital and basically dissecting corpses to really understand how the entire body was made up and how it really was put together. And it allowed him to really deliver some of the best, art of all times. And what that really hit me as is that even Michelangelo understood that you just can't take data and go and begin to be the best, artist. You really need to understand the human person. And I really think that that's what is missing and why I think compassionate leadership can be a critical venue toward what I call the double bottom line, still delivering the profits and understanding everything about your people to ensure that they have the greatest opportunity to achieve their greatest potential.